guys, welcome back into the channel. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the most important ratings and traits for fullbacks within Madden 24, which should be a nice easy way to start this week off because there's not a whole lot that goes into a fullback, but there are a couple of very important ratings that you want to keep in mind if you want to have an effective fullback within Madden 24. Most of the fullbacks out here within the game don't even have the ratings that you would typically be looking for, and you can find some pretty serviceable fullbacks that might have the couple of attributes that we're looking for that are super low overall that could get you the blocks that you're looking for at this position. If you run a fullback, there are basically 5 ratings that I recommend you take a look at. There's a couple of other what you would call secondary ratings that are important for this position, but primarily there's 5 ratings. And so to jump into it here, the first thing that I want to say is that your player archetype literally doesn't matter for this position. You could be utility, blocking, it literally does not matter. Do not pay attention to a player's overall or a player's archetype at the fullback position because it's not going to tell the whole story. Oftentimes it's inflated if a player has like decent pass blocking ratings, which is almost never going to come into play for the fullback position. It's going to be affected by some of the run blocking stats that really don't come into play for the fullback position. They're catching and things like that again don't come into play for this position because most of the time if you're going to throw one to the fullback, they're wide open in the flat anyway. So what actually matters for this position? The 2 most important ratings here that you're going to want to focus on are your lead block and your impact block. And if you take a look at a fullback here, lead block and impact block are number 1 and number 2 on the list of ratings, as they should be. They've actually done a good job with this. A player's lead block rating is going to determine how well they can get out in front of you and find the people that they're trying to block. So a good lead block rating can help you out tremendously. To be honest with you, you only need 70 plus lead blocking, and they're going to be an effective lead blocker as long as some of the other ratings are lining up here. Now, of course, the higher the better. If you get into those 80s, you're going to have a player that is very effective at finding the correct block and getting onto that block out in front of your running back or whatever they might be doing. And then impact blocking is going to determine that point of contact block, how effective that is. So really good impact blocking is going to result in your guy pushing the other guy back or getting a good impact at that point of contact. Again, if you find a player that has 70 and 70 here in impact blocking and lead blocking, you're in good shape. I'm not saying that they're going to be an excellent fullback, but that's going to be kind of like the base of what you want at the fullback position. 70 impact block, 70 lead block. And that's why in this game, there are actually a lot of players that you can get that will be effective fullbacks that aren't necessarily at this position. A lot of times you can find some tight ends that have that 70s range for impact blocking and lead blocking, and that's going to be really helpful. Likewise, sometimes you can find running backs, especially in draft classes that have decent impact block and lead block that can be converted to a fullback, and then they're more athletic. And then beyond your impact blocking and lead blocking, the 3rd most important rating for this position is not actually listed here on the main page, and that's important to consider. It's actually going to be down here on the 2nd page, and that is going to be a fullback's awareness. That is going to run in tandem with their lead blocking rating, and it's going to affect how well they're able to get onto the correct defender and block them, how well they're able to track that player, and how well they're able to get onto that player and block them. So awareness is crucial for fullbacks, and this is one where you're going to want to see something closer to 80 if you can. 85 here for Kyle Juszczyk is very, very good. Anything 75 plus is probably going to be serviceable. You're going to be looking for somebody that is able to diagnose the defenders that are needed to be blocked and get onto those defenders. And that is the most important thing for a fullback if you're utilizing a fullback in Madden. And that's why those are the top 3 ratings that are going to be absolutely crucial to them being effective. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be 100%. That doesn't mean they're going to be the most effective fullback in the world, but it means they're at least going to know where to block most of the time. The other thing to consider here is that a lot of times it doesn't matter how good your fullback is, because the blocking schemes in this game are kind of crappy, and a lot of times the logic of blockers is pretty crappy. So what that means is you could have a fullback that's as good as Kyle Juszczyk, and a lot of times they'll still miss blocks anyway, just because of bad pathfinding and bad blocking schemes within the game, and there's nothing you can really do about that. But again, if you want to set yourself up for the highest chance of success, you want to get a player that has good impact, lead block, and awareness, and that's going to set you up with the best possible outcome. Beyond that, then, we want to talk about a fullback's speed and acceleration. This is going to be paramount to the fullback position, and the reason for that is you have to get out in front of a running back 9 times out of 10 if you're the fullback in the offense. You're the lead blocker for the running back. So a running back that has typically 90 plus speed is going to catch up to a fullback that has anywhere in that 80 range very quickly. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of good fullbacks that can get out there and get onto a block for you that are not that high overall. One of the best ones in this game is Kyrie Blasingame, and hopefully I'm saying that correctly, but the reason that he's one of the best in the game is because he has 87 speed and 91 acceleration. He has running back athleticism, at least close to it, which means that he's always getting out in front of where you need him to be. It's just a matter of whether he's going to make his blocks or not. He has 71 awareness, which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. He has 69 impact block and 76 lead block, which is a recipe for a very, very solid and serviceable fullback. One of the best fullbacks in the game, in my opinion, because of the combination between his athleticism and his ability to actually find the players he's trying to block. He's just as effective as Kyle Juszczyk, and he's a 73 overall in comparison to an 86. That speaks volumes about the fullback position. Now, Kyle Juszczyk offers some receiving capability, some route running capability, some trucking and break tackle and all that stuff that's really never going to be utilized by you within Madden anyway. I mean, how often have you ever seen a fullback get the ball, let alone the fullback have opportunities to break a tackle and score a touchdown? There's just not enough play design within Madden to make a fullback with all those other assets and skills actually viable within the game. Meanwhile, you can have a guy who is a monster blocker, but is not athletic enough to really do what you need him to do. He's effectively a lineman back there at fullback. Now, depending on what you're doing with him, if you're just running ISO plays out of an I formation, then yeah, you might be able to get away with that, which is what the Ravens utilize him for. But if you're trying to run sweeps and tosses and stuff out of strong eyes and weak eyes and all that type of stuff, you need a fullback that can move a little bit, and Patrick Ricard just is not going to be that player. Beyond that, then, there's not really a whole lot that is going to matter for the fullback position. I haven't noticed a big correlation between a player's run blocking ratings and their ability to do well as a fullback. What honestly matters the most for a fullback is being able to track down a defender and just get a chip on them more often than not. So being able to hold up in a one-on-one run block is not a situation that I find myself in that often. So a player's run block, I don't even really worry about too much. If I have impact block and lead block, I'm in good shape. If you have run blocking around that 70 mark, I'm sure that can be utilized in certain situations, but it's not the end all be all. And then again, you have pass blocking ratings that aren't going to matter at all. We talked about trucking and stiff arm and break tackle. I mean, if you're going to try to run it with a fullback, sure, you want a guy that has good trucking and whatnot, but 9 times out of 10, your running back's going to be better at that anyway, and it's really hard to get like 85 plus trucking or stiff arm on a fullback, which is where players start to actually be effective at trucking and stiff arming. Again, run block finesse, run block power, pass block finesse, ball carrier vision, all that stuff, short route running, medium route running. Not particularly useful, not particularly effective. The only other thing that I really want you to pay attention to at this position is the player's agility and change of direction rating. And this kind of ties in with linemen as well. This is why guards, specifically pulling guards, you want to have certain athleticism numbers. Anything in that change of direction and agility categories that are 75 and above is going to be decent. That's going to be kind of good enough within the game for them to operate, to be able to, change directions on the fly and adjust to be able to block players. But realistically, you want a player at this position that is far more athletic, that, on a high speed chase down of a defender can quickly shift their momentum and get onto that guy. And that's why, again, a player like Kyrie Blasingame is one of the best fullbacks in the game, despite only being a 73 overall, because he has 83 agility and 80 change of direction, which is better than most of the other fullbacks in the game. Meanwhile, though, there are a lot of running backs in this game that can be pretty easily converted over to a solid fullback. Just think about all the athleticism stats on these players. Most of your running backs are in the 90s on speed, 90s in acceleration, and high 80s, if not 90s, on agility and change of direction. If you took a very young running back, 22, 23 years old, and stuck them at fullback and gave them a couple of upgrades to their blocking capabilities, their lead block and impact block will fall in line. The athleticism is going to get them to where they need to go, and if they have half decent awareness, they're going to get onto the players with the combination of their upgraded lead blocking stat and their awareness. So something to consider at the fullback position. I definitely want you guys to be aware of what actually matters if you're going to try to use a fullback in Madden. And as far as traits go, there's really nothing here that is going to make or break it for a fullback. The penalty tendency is probably the only one you're going to want to pay any attention to, so just keep that in mind. Nevertheless, though, hopefully this video was helpful to you. If it was, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. As always, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.